Tonight, we're unraveling a mystery that haunted the halls of Briar Ridge High, one that started with an anonymous text and ended with a shattered community. Our case, unknown number, the High School Catfish. This story centers on Harper Lane, no relation, and Dylan Brooks, two students whose lives collided with a digital predator in ways no one could have predicted. Are you ready, Dylan?
Absolutely, Harper. The title itself sends chills down my spine. Can you set the scene for us? What was Briar Ridge High like at the start of all this? What kind of place are we talking about? And who were Harper Lane and Dylan Brooks before the unknown number entered their lives?
Briar Ridge High, nestled in the quiet town of Willow Creek, Washington, was your classic suburban high school. Picture red brick buildings, oak trees lining the walkways, a student body of 1,100. Harper Lane, our main subject, not me, was a junior, 17, AP student, president of the debate team, and a theater kid. She was known for her quick wit, charcoal sketches, and a GPA that made her a favorite for valedictorian. Dylan Brooks, no relation to you, Dylan, was a senior, star on the basketball team, 18, with a reputation for kindness. He tutored underclassmen in calculus and played piano at school assemblies. The two moved in different circles until the texts started.
That's already so vivid. So Harper Lane and Dylan Brooks weren't close before the case began. When did the first sign of trouble appear? Was there a particular moment that set everything in motion?
It all started on Monday, September 8th, 2024. At 7:43 a.m., Harper Lane received a text from an unknown number. "I know your secret." The message was simple but chilling. She thought it was a prank until the sender referenced a private incident from 3 years prior, one only her closest friend, Gemma Ruiz, knew about. That same afternoon, Dylan Brooks received a similar text, this one referencing an injury he'd hidden from his coach. The texts kept coming, each more personal, more invasive, always from the same untraceable number.
That's unsettling. Did Harper or Dylan confide in anyone at first, or did they try to handle it on their own? What was their initial reaction to these messages?
Harper was shaken, but she tried to brush it off as a cruel joke. She told Gemma, who swore she hadn't shared the secret. Dylan, meanwhile, confided in his friend Marcus Lee. Both teens tried blocking the number, but new ones would appear, each message signed with an emoji, a fox. Within days, the messages escalated, veiled threats, cryptic hints, and even photos taken near their homes. By September 12, fear had replaced skepticism.
That's already so vivid. So Harper Lane and Dylan Brooks weren't close before the case began. When did the first sign of trouble appear? Was there a particular moment that set everything in motion?
It all started on Monday, September 8th, 2024. At 7:43 a.m., Harper Lane received a text from an unknown number. "I know your secret." The message was simple but chilling. She thought it was a prank until the sender referenced a private incident from 3 years prior, one only her closest friend, Gemma Ruiz, knew about. That same afternoon, Dylan Brooks received a similar text, this one referencing an injury he'd hidden from his coach. The texts kept coming, each more personal, more invasive, always from the same untraceable number.
That's unsettling. Did Harper or Dylan confide in anyone at first, or did they try to handle it on their own? What was their initial reaction to these messages?
Harper was shaken, but she tried to brush it off as a cruel joke. She told Gemma, who swore she hadn't shared the secret. Dylan, meanwhile, confided in his friend Marcus Lee. Both teens tried blocking the number, but new ones would appear, each message signed with an emoji, a fox. Within days, the messages escalated, veiled threats, cryptic hints, and even photos taken near their homes. By September 12, fear had replaced skepticism.
That fox emoji detail is so specific. It feels calculated. When did school staff or authorities get involved? Was there a tipping point that pushed this from unsettling to dangerous?
The turning point came on September 15th. At 2:17 p.m., Harper received a text showing a photo of her backpack taken inside her locker. That same evening, Dylan's family dog was found wandering outside, collar missing. The messages now included details only someone inside the school could know. On September 16th, both Harper and Dylan met with Principal Rowe. She called in the school resource officer, Deputy Sandra Mills, who began a formal investigation. Police issued a statement urging students to report suspicious messages.
I can't imagine how invasive that must have felt. What were the initial steps investigators took? Did they have any leads on who might be behind the messages?
Deputy Mills started by pulling school security footage, focusing on the locker hallway between 7 and 8 a.m. She also subpoenaed the phone records for the unknown numbers. Forensics traced the SIM cards to burner phones purchased at a nearby convenience store. No cameras in the store, cash payments only. The fox emoji became a chilling signature. Investigators interviewed students who'd had conflicts with Harper and Dylan, but no clear suspects emerged. The IT department checked the school's Wi-Fi logs. Nothing matched the times the texts were sent.
This person was careful, almost methodical. Did the messages target only Harper and Dylan, or did other students start receiving them as well?
Initially, it was just Harper and Dylan. By September 20, though, a third student, Ava Patel, a sophomore, received a text about her family's recent move, something she'd told only her guidance counselor. The pattern suggested the sender had access to deeply personal information. Fear spread through the student body. Rumors flew about hidden cameras, hacked phones, and a potential stalker on campus. Yet, the perpetrator remained invisible.
With the texts getting more widespread, was there any psychological toll on the victims? How did Harper, Dylan, and now Ava start to change as this went on?
The psychological impact was profound. Harper, once outgoing and engaged, withdrew from her clubs, her grades slipping for the first time. She recorded in her journal, "I feel watched all the time." Dylan's basketball performance tanked. He became irritable, snapping at teammates. Ava developed insomnia, reporting nightmares of being followed. School counselor Dr. Marisa Fong noted that all three showed signs of acute anxiety, jumpiness, panic attacks, and hypervigilance. Parents demanded answers at a tense PTA meeting on September 25.
Did the police or the school offer any protection or guidance to students at this point? What measures were put in place to keep everyone safe?
The school increased security, more patrols, new camera installations, and restricted access to certain areas. Students were advised to travel in groups and report any suspicious activity. Deputy Mills held assemblies on digital safety. But the perpetrator adapted, sending messages at odd hours, sometimes referencing events that hadn't happened yet, like a fire drill that was only scheduled internally. It suggested the sender was close, possibly even faculty.
That's truly chilling. That the stalker might be someone inside the school. Did investigators start looking at staff as potential suspects? Were there any staff members who stood out?
Investigators discreetly reviewed staff backgrounds. Several teachers, including Mr. Campbell, the IT teacher, and Miss Reyes, the guidance counselor, were interviewed. Both had unrestricted access to student records, but several administrators did. Deputy Mills ran digital forensics on their school laptops and checked for unauthorized access to files. No evidence surfaced, but a tech audit revealed that someone had logged into the student database at 2:03 a.m. on September 19th using a proxy server.
That late-night access is a huge red flag. Was there any indication of what information was viewed or downloaded during that access?
The audit showed someone accessed files for Harper, Dylan, and Ava, student disciplinary records, emergency contacts, and psychological evaluations. No files were downloaded, but screenshots could have been taken. IT found a USB drive left plugged into a library computer the next morning, but its contents were wiped. Investigators sent it to the state crime lab for recovery, hoping for fingerprints or residual data.
Did any witnesses see anything suspicious around a time of the late-night login or when the USB drive was found?
Library staffer Jamie Tran reported seeing a student, described as tall, hoodie, gender ambiguous, leaving the computer lab at 2:15 a.m., despite the building being closed. Security footage from that night was corrupted, possibly intentionally. Maintenance logs showed a door sensor was disabled for 34 minutes. Investigators theorized the perpetrator either had a key card or tampered with the security system.
That kind of digital and physical access suggests serious planning. Did the investigation look at students with tech skills or records of past hacking incidents?
Absolutely. Investigators compiled a list of students with advanced computer knowledge. One name stood out, Lucas Kim, a junior who'd been suspended the previous year for hacking into the school's Wi-Fi. Lucas denied involvement and provided an alibi. He was at a robotics club competition the night of the breach, corroborated by multiple witnesses. Still, his devices were seized for forensic analysis.
So Lucas was cleared, but it sounds like the pool of suspects was still wide. Did the messages ever reference ongoing police actions or the investigation itself, hinting that the perpetrator was following the case closely?
Yes, and that's what truly unsettled investigators. On September 28th, Harper received a text minutes after her meeting with Deputy Mills. They still have no clue, do they? The timing was so precise, it suggested the sender either had access to police communications or was observing the meetings. The school installed bug-sweeping devices, but found nothing conclusive.
That level of surveillance is deeply disturbing. Did Harper, Dylan, or Ava ever receive direct threats, or was it always psychological manipulation and intimidation?
The threats escalated gradually. By October 1, Harper received a message, "If you talk, everyone will know what you did." Dylan got a video of his house at night, a fox emoji superimposed. Ava's text said, "Check your locker." Inside, she found a note, "You're next." The town of Beale City was stunned. Parents and teachers who'd known Kendra for years couldn't reconcile the doting mother with the digital tormentor. Some, like Diane Fussman, admitted they'd long felt Kendra was obsessive, but most were blindsided. At the Wilsons' Halloween party, one neighbor dressed a scarecrow in a prison jumpsuit with Kendra's mugshot, a darkly comic reflection of the community's shock and anger.
How did Lauren's relationship with her mother change after the arrest? Was there any chance for reconciliation?
Lauryn immediately cut off contact with Kendra. The trauma left her deeply distrustful. She moved in with her father, refused to visit her mother in jail, and began therapy. In court, she testified about the psychological damage, saying, "I don't know if I'll ever fully trust anyone again." The judge issued a no-contact order, barring Kendra from seeing Lauryn for the duration of her sentence and probation.
What happened with the evidence collected? Was it used in court? And did Kendra ultimately confess or go to trial?
The digital evidence was overwhelming. Prosecutors presented timelines, metadata, and device logs in court. In April 2023, facing insurmountable evidence, Kendra pleaded guilty to 2 counts of stalking. She was sentenced to 20 months in prison and 5 years probation, with the judge calling it one of the most egregious cases of cyber abuse I've seen. Kendra offered a brief apology in court, but Lauryn refused to speak to her.
Looking back, were there any early warning signs that investigators missed? Anything that could have prevented it from escalating so far?
In hindsight, the signs were there. Kendra's over-involvement, her possession of 2 phones, her constant presence at school events. Teachers and parents had concerns, but never voiced them assertively, partly out of disbelief that a mother could torment her own child. The insidious nature of digital abuse made it easy to mask. Experts later said, "We must look harder at the boundaries between parental protection and obsession."
This case is just chilling. Were there any lasting changes in the community or school policies after the investigation?
Absolutely. Beale City High School implemented new anti-bullying protocols, digital literacy workshops, and training for staff on identifying psychological abuse. The district invested in mental health resources, and local law enforcement now works with the FBI on cyberstalking cases. The community, once rocked by disbelief, became a model for early intervention and awareness.
Thanks for walking me through every detail, Harper. The level of manipulation and psychological trauma is staggering. What's next in the investigation? Are there any lingering questions or loose ends investigators continue to pursue?
After Kendra's conviction, the only lingering questions were psychological. How someone crossed from protectiveness to cruelty. Lauryn's recovery became the focus, with ongoing therapy and support from her father and friends. Investigators periodically checked digital security in the community, but no further threats emerged. The scars, though, remained, reminders of how trust can be weaponized in the digital age. When police first got involved in January 2022, the evidence was a confusing web of anonymous texts, burner apps, and mounting psychological distress for Lauryn and Owen. Investigators combed through over 1,000 messages, each one cataloged, timestamped, and analyzed for clues. Every single text, no matter how cruel or bizarre, was preserved as digital evidence, creating a disturbing timeline that stretched from September 2021 through the following 15 months.
That's an overwhelming amount of messages. Did investigators notice any specific patterns or language that helped narrow down the suspect pool early on?
The language was key. Many messages called Lauryn Lo, a nickname only close friends and family used. Some texts referenced private family matters, details Lauryn never shared with anyone but her mother. Investigators flagged this immediately, suspecting the sender was within Lauryn's intimate circle. Still, the case was complicated by the use of anonymous texting apps that masked the sender's identity.
1P. So how did the forensic team handle those anonymous apps? Were they able to trace anything technical back to the sender?
The breakthrough came when the FBI's cyber unit, led by liaison Bradley Peter, issued a search warrant to the texting app provider in April 2022. The warrant revealed that some texts, while masked, were routed through Verizon numbers. With a second warrant to Verizon, the forensic team traced recurring IP addresses and device IDs, consistently linking back to Kendra Licari's home Wi-Fi and her 2 cell phones.
Wow, that's fascinating. Did Kendra ever try to explain why she had those devices? Did anyone notice her using more than one phone before?
During a sting operation at Lauryn's school, Principal Dan Boyer watched Kendra carry 2 phones. When questioned, she claimed one was for work and one was personal, but she hadn't held a job in months. Witnesses, including Lauryn's friend Diane Fussman, told the principal they found Kendra's behavior obsessive and her constant presence at school events suspicious. This only deepened investigators' interest in her devices.
What about the physical evidence? Did they collect her phones? Were they able to extract anything concrete from them?
Absolutely. On December 2nd, 2022, police executed a search warrant at Kendra's house. Officers, captured on body cam, seized both of her phones, her home laptop, and several USB drives. Forensic analysts performed a full digital extraction using Cellebrite and XRI software to recover deleted texts, app data, and browser history. They uncovered remnants of the anonymous apps and logs of outgoing messages that matched the abuse Lauryn and Owen received.
Wow, that's damning. Did the forensic team recover any messages Kendra tried to delete or hide? Were there any attempts at wiping her devices?
Yes, Kendra had deleted several apps and cleared many logs, but forensic analysis revealed traces of previously installed texting apps, as well as recovery of deleted message fragments from her phone's internal storage. Investigators matched the timestamps and content of these fragments to the threatening texts received by Lauryn and Owen, providing a direct digital link between Kendra and the harassment.
That's damning. Was there any other digital evidence? Emails, cloud backups, or social media that investigators found?
Forensic experts subpoenaed Kendra's iCloud and Google Drive accounts. While she was careful, analysts still found metadata showing app installations and logins from her devices at the same time the texts were sent. She also used her home router, which logged outbound traffic to the texting app servers, further tying her digital footprint to the harassment's timeline.
Well, that's fascinating. Did police or the FBI use any advanced forensic techniques, like geolocation or device fingerprinting, to strengthen the case?
They did. Investigators mapped the location data from Kendra's phones, showing she was always at home or at school when abusive messages were sent. Device fingerprinting, analyzing unique hardware and software signatures, confirmed that the same devices sent both the legitimate family texts and the anonymous threats. This eliminated the possibility that her devices had been spoofed or hacked.
1P. What about DNA or physical forensics? Did anything like fingerprints come into play, or was it all digital?
While digital evidence was central, physical forensics weren't ignored. Investigators dusted Lauryn's school locker and belongings for prints during the sting operation, but found nothing unusual. The focus quickly shifted to digital forensics, since every traceable clue pointed back to Kendra's electronic devices, rather than physical tampering or handwritten notes.
What about DNA or physical forensics? Did anything like fingerprints come into play, or was it all digital?
While digital evidence was central, physical forensics weren't ignored. Investigators dusted Lauryn's school locker and belongings for prints during the sting operation, but found nothing unusual. The focus quickly shifted to digital forensics, since every traceable clue pointed back to Kendra's electronic devices, rather than physical tampering or handwritten notes.
What about DNA or physical forensics? Did anything like fingerprints come into play, or was it all digital?
While digital evidence was central, physical forensics weren't ignored. Investigators dusted Lauryn's school locker and belongings for prints during the sting operation, but found nothing unusual. The focus quickly shifted to digital forensics, since every traceable clue pointed back to Kendra's electronic devices, rather than physical tampering or handwritten notes.
What about DNA or physical forensics? Did anything like fingerprints come into play, or was it all digital?
While digital evidence was central, physical forensics weren't ignored. Investigators dusted Lauryn's school locker and belongings for prints during the sting operation, but found nothing unusual. The focus quickly shifted to digital forensics, since every traceable clue pointed back to Kendra's electronic devices rather than physical tampering or handwritten notes.
What about DNA or physical forensics? Did anything like fingerprints come into play, or was it all digital?
While digital evidence was central, physical forensics weren't ignored. Investigators dusted Lauryn's school locker and belongings for prints during the sting operation, but found nothing unusual. The focus quickly shifted to digital forensics, since every traceable clue pointed back to Kendra's electronic devices rather than physical tampering or handwritten notes.
What about DNA or physical forensics? Did anything like fingerprints come into play, or was it all digital?
While digital evidence was central, physical forensics weren't ignored. Investigators dusted Lauryn's school locker and belongings for prints during the sting operation, but found nothing unusual. The focus quickly shifted to digital forensics, since every traceable clue pointed back to Kendra's electronic devices rather than physical tampering or handwritten notes.
What about DNA or physical forensics? Did anything like fingerprints come into play, or was it all digital?
While digital evidence was central, physical forensics weren't ignored. Investigators dusted Lauryn's school locker and belongings for prints during the sting operation, but found nothing unusual. The focus quickly shifted to digital forensics, since every traceable clue pointed back to Kendra's electronic devices rather than physical tampering or handwritten notes.
What about DNA or physical forensics? Did anything like fingerprints come into play, or was it all digital?
While digital evidence was central, physical forensics weren't ignored. Investigators dusted Lauryn's school locker and belongings for prints during the sting operation, but found nothing unusual. The focus quickly shifted to digital forensics, since every traceable clue pointed back to Kendra's electronic devices rather than physical tampering or... Forensic analysis of the messages revealed unique spelling quirks and phrases that matched patterns in Kendra's emails and texts. The FBI's Bradley Peter led the digital investigation. He explained, "We found no evidence of a second perpetrator. Every digital footprint led back to Kendra, sometimes via masking apps routed through Verizon, but always back to her devices."
What about the forensic side? How did investigators finally tie the text directly to Kendra's phone or accounts?
The breakthrough came in April 2022 when the FBI subpoenaed records from the anonymizing text app. They matched login times and IP addresses to Kendra's home Wi-Fi. Then, a Verizon subpoena linked specific messages to her account. Investigators seized her devices in December 2022 and found the app installed, with cached login data matching the sending times of the abusive texts.
Were there any psychological evaluations or expert opinions about Kendra's motives? Did any professionals weigh in?
Yes, Dr. Elaine Minter, a forensic psychologist, evaluated Kendra pre-sentencing. Dr. Minter suggested Kendra displayed traits of factitious disorder imposed on another, usually a form of Munchausen by proxy, but in a digital context. She noted, Kendra's need for attention and control fueled her actions, possibly linked to her own adolescent trauma.
That's a fascinating angle. Did Kendra ever give her own explanation or justification for her actions, either to police or in court?
Kendra, during her police interview and in court, claimed she was trying to protect Lauryn from harm, referencing trauma she'd experienced as a teen. She told the court, "I was desperate to make sure Lauryn was safe, even if I went about it the wrong way." But she never fully explained why the abuse escalated so cruelly.
How did Lauryn react when she learned her mother was behind the messages? Was her statement recorded or shared publicly?
Lauryn's reaction was documented in police body cam footage. She was mostly silent, clinging to her mother during the arrest. Later, in an interview, Lauryn said, "I felt betrayed by the one person who was supposed to protect me." She admitted to months of confusion and hurt, unable to reconcile the loving mother she knew with the person who sent the messages.
That must have been devastating. What about the community? How did neighbors and classmates respond when the truth came out?
The Beale City community was stunned. Neighbors like Diane Fussman said no one wanted to believe it. Some classmates expressed relief, but also anger, feeling they'd been unfairly accused. The Wilson family hosted a watch party for the documentary, using dark humor as a coping mechanism, but many struggled with trust issues afterwards.
Did the case change any school policies or lead to new procedures for handling cyberbullying or anonymous threats?
Yes, the district instituted new protocols, mandatory reporting, digital literacy seminars, and a dedicated counselor for cyberbullying victims. Principal Boyer advocated for more robust monitoring of anonymous tip lines and increased mental health support. The school also invested in better digital forensics training for staff.
Were there any legal consequences for the school or police, since the investigation took so long and led to so many false accusations?
While no one at the school or police department was formally charged, there was heavy criticism of their early focus on Lauryn's peers. The superintendent issued a public apology for the painful missteps. Police Chief Tom Klein admitted the case exposed gaps in our procedures and assumptions.
Did any experts from the FBI or digital forensics field comment on what made this case so difficult to solve?
FBI liaison Bradley Peter explained that the use of anonymizing apps, combined with Kendra's inside knowledge, made the case unusually complex. You're dealing with someone who knows all the right buttons to push and all the intimate details. That's what made it so convincing as an inside job by a peer.
Were there any evidence that Kendra tried to frame anyone else or intentionally mislead the investigation?
Investigators found that Kendra had suggested to police and school officials that Lauryn's friends or even ex-friends were behind the texts. In several emails, she provided tips about students Lauryn had recently argued with, effectively directing suspicion away from herself.
Did the FBI or local investigators ever suspect Kendra early on, or was she truly off their radar until the digital evidence surfaced?
Initially, Kendra was considered a concerned parent, but as more evidence emerged, her presence at every meeting, her detailed knowledge of the investigation, and the two phones, she became a person of interest. It wasn't until the digital trail was confirmed that they moved in.
Were there any moment during the investigation that really stood out to the witnesses as a turning point or major revelation?
Maddie Evans described the December 2022 moment when police arrived at the Licari home. She said, "It was like the whole world stopped. Lauryn just stared at her mom. None of us could believe it. That's when it all fell into place. The community's collective shock was palpable."
What happened to Lauryn and Owen after the truth came out? Did they reconnect, or was the damage too great?
Lauryn and Owen remained friends but didn't rekindle their romance. Lauryn focused on therapy and rebuilding trust, while Owen's family moved to a neighboring town to escape the local fallout. Both gave statements about the long-term emotional toll. Lauryn especially struggled with trust issues and anxiety.
Did any of the forensic evidence surprise the investigators, like undiscovered messages or hidden files on Kendra's devices?
Investigators uncovered draft messages Kendra never sent, which were even more disturbing in tone. Forensic examination showed she rehearsed various personas, sometimes pretending to be multiple classmates. There were also deleted search histories about anonymizing apps and cyberstalking cases.
Did Kendra ever try to delete evidence or obstruct the investigation once she sensed the authorities were closing in?
Forensic experts found that Kendra had attempted to factory reset one device and delete the messaging app. However, digital recovery tools restored the app data, and cloud backups provided a complete log of her activities, which was pivotal in her conviction.
Were there any other family members or close friends who spoke out about Kendra's mental state leading up to the crimes?
Kendra's sister, Melissa Porter, gave a statement describing Kendra as withdrawn and desperate for validation after losing her job. Melissa mentioned Kendra's obsession with Lauryn's safety and her growing isolation, but she insisted she never suspected anything criminal.
What were the biggest contradictions or conflicting statements that investigators encountered during the witness interviews?
One major contradiction was Kendra's claim she was working full-time. Records showed she'd been fired months before. Kendra also told different stories about her whereabouts during key messaging times. Additionally, she denied owning a second phone until confronted with evidence from the sting operation.
Did the experts or psychologists offer any advice for preventing something like this from happening in small communities?
Dr. Minter recommended regular mental health screenings for parents and more open dialogue between teens and caregivers. She emphasized the importance of community awareness and destigmatizing mental health struggles, especially after traumatic events or job loss.
Were there any legal experts who commented on how rare or unprecedented this type of digital abuse is? especially by a parent?
Legal analyst Rebecca Morse called it unprecedented for its level of psychological manipulation by a parent. She noted, most cases of parental abuse are physical or emotional in person. This was calculated, long-term digital torment.
Did the local police face criticism for their handling of the investigation, particularly the pace and direction?
Yes, the initial focus on classmates led to community outrage. Several parents filed complaints about the police's invasive questioning of minors. The department later acknowledged they needed better resources and training for digital crimes.
How did Lauryn's extended family respond to the media attention and documentary? Did anyone refuse to participate or speak out?
Some family members, like Kendra's parents, refused interviews, citing the trauma and shame. Others, like Lauryn's aunt, spoke out in support of Lauryn and called for privacy during the recovery process. The family was deeply divided after the truth surfaced.
What have been the long-term effects on Lauryn, Owen, and their families, even after the resolution of the case?
Lauryn continues therapy and has spoken at schools about digital abuse. Owen's family relocated, and he's reportedly doing well but remains wary of close relationships. The Licari family is estranged, with Lauryn and Sean working to rebuild their lives while Kendra serves her sentence.
Did any forensic specialists or law enforcement offer advice about new trends in digital stalking or cyberbullying after this case?
FBI experts warned this case highlights the increasing sophistication of digital stalking, especially when the perpetrator is someone close. They advised families to use parental controls, monitor device use, and educate teens about reporting suspicious behavior, even from trusted adults.
Looking back, were there any warning signs that the community or Lauryn's friends missed that seemed obvious in hindsight?
Maddie Evans said, "We all thought Kendra cared too much, but never imagined this." Diane Fussman noted Kendra's constant presence and controlling behavior. Hindsight made clear that her over-involvement and secretive use of technology were red flags.
How did the documentary's release affect the people involved? Did it bring closure or reopen old wounds?
For some, the documentary offered validation and closure. For others, it reopened pain and mistrust. The Wilson family processed with humor, while Lauryn's family requested privacy. The community remains divided. Some feel justice was done, others are still in disbelief it could happen there. When investigators first started compiling a suspect list, their attention naturally turned to Lauryn's inner circle. The initial wave of harassing texts arrived in October 2020, right before the annual Wilson Halloween party in Beale, Michigan. The messages claimed Lauryn wasn't invited, which immediately set off emotional turmoil. Owen, her boyfriend at the time, insisted she come anyway, but Lauryn was left questioning her social standing and trust in her friends. Detectives wondered, was this a jealous classmate, a spurned friend, or something more sinister?
That's unsettling. So they suspected Lauryn's classmates first. How did they go about narrowing down the list, given how personal the messages were? Did they interview specific friends or focus on anyone acting strangely at school?
Absolutely. The school administration, led by Principal Dan Boyer, and local law enforcement The most shocking moment was the shift from suspecting teenagers to realizing an adult, Lauryn's own mother, was orchestrating the harassment. The sting operation, Kendra's 2 phones, and her persistent involvement transformed the investigation. The emotional impact of that revelation rippled through every interview and forensic review, fundamentally altering how investigators approached motives and opportunity.
Were there any other theories the investigators considered but eventually ruled out? Maybe an unknown outsider or a random cyberbully with no connection to Lauryn?
Early on, they explored the theory of an anonymous online predator targeting Lauryn. Investigators subpoenaed records from TextNow and WhatsApp and checked for links to known offenders in the region. However, all digital trails circled back to Beale, Michigan, and ultimately to Kendra's devices. No evidence supported the outsider theory. Every message contained personalized information only someone close to Lauryn would know.
Did anyone in Lauryn's extended family or friends ever suspect Kendra before law enforcement did? Was there a particular person who voiced their concerns first?
Diane Fussman, the school counselor, was the first to voice suspicion. She confided in Principal Boyer that Kendra's behavior was not typical for a concerned parent. Tommy Wilson later reported noticing Kendra's increasing agitation and involvement in student drama. Lauryn's father, Eric Licari, admitted he never would have imagined Kendra capable of such deception, expressing shock when confronted with the evidence.
How did the community react once the truth was made public? Was there an immediate shift in public opinion about the case or about Kendra herself?
The community's reaction was swift and polarized. Many expressed outrage and disbelief, while others mourned the breach of trust. Social media erupted with hashtags like #BealBetrayal and #ProtectLauren. At the next PTA meeting, parents demanded stricter oversight and support for bullied students. Some neighbors organized a watch party for the documentary, using it as a cautionary tale for their own families.
Did Kendra's own history, her childhood trauma, or prior mental health issues play a role in how authorities or experts assessed her motives?
Yes, Kendra's traumatic adolescence, marked by bullying and isolation, was discussed extensively in psychological evaluations. Dr. Hastings testified that her unresolved trauma possibly fueled her obsessive need to control Lauren's environment. Her medical records revealed a history of anxiety and depressive episodes, but no formal diagnosis of a personality disorder. This context helped explain, though not excuse, her actions.
Were there any legal complexities or challenges during prosecution? Did Kendra's defense team present any alternative explanations or mitigating circumstances?
Kendra's defense argued diminished capacity due to her mental health struggles, citing her trauma and a recent divorce. They presented expert testimony about her psychological state, but ultimately conceded the digital evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution maintained that her intent and planning negated any claim of impulsivity. The judge emphasized the lasting harm to Lauryn and Owen in the sentencing remarks.
Did the case set any legal precedents for cyberbullying or digital harassment involving family members? Was it referenced in subsequent cases or legislation?
The case was cited in Michigan's 2024 legislative hearings on strengthening cyberbullying statutes, particularly concerning parental abuse. Lawmakers referenced the Licari case to argue for mandatory reporting and intervention protocols when adults are suspects. Several states reviewed their own laws, inspired by the detailed forensic investigation and the challenges of prosecuting tech-enabled domestic harassment.
Were there any final words or statements from Kendra after her conviction? Did she express remorse or justify her actions in any way?
In her final statement before sentencing, Kendra tearfully said, "I never meant to hurt Lauryn. I just wanted to keep her safe." She apologized to Owen and his family, admitting she lost control of her emotions. The judge noted her remorse, but emphasized the deliberate and prolonged nature of the harassment, calling it a betrayal of parental trust at the deepest level.
That's heartbreaking. Is Lauryn still in touch with any of her friends from that period? Or did the experience permanently damage those relationships?
Lauryn remains close with Owen and Chloe, but several friendships fractured under the strain of suspicion and betrayal. She attends a different school now, preferring a quieter life. Therapy helped her rebuild trust, but she's cautious about new relationships, aware of how easily trust can be shattered. Her story continues to resonate as a warning and a testament to resilience.
Were there any lasting changes to the community or school culture in Beale after the case? Did people become more vigilant or supportive as a result?
Absolutely. The case prompted widespread changes, better digital safety education, increased mental health resources, and a renewed focus on parental boundaries. Beale High's counselors now lead regular workshops on healthy communication and cyberbullying prevention. The community remains vigilant, determined never to let such an incident go unnoticed again. The investigation had reached a standstill by late October 2021. Detectives had exhausted the usual suspects, Lauryn's classmates, Owen's friends, even a few teachers. But then, a forensic breakthrough changed everything. The Cybercrimes Unit obtained a warrant for phone metadata, revealing that the abusive texts often originated from an IP address linked to Lauryn's own home Wi-Fi. This was the first major twist. The stalker wasn't operating from afar, but was disturbingly close to Lauryn's daily life.
Wait, so the messages were actually being sent from inside Lauryn's house? Did investigators suspect any family members at that point, or were they still focused on her peers?
Initially, the focus was still on Lauryn's social circle. Investigators theorized that maybe a friend had gained access to the Wi-Fi. But things shifted during a sting operation at Beale High School in November 2021. Principal Dan Boyer, acting on Kendra Licari's suggestion, left Lauryn's shoes out to lure the bully. Reviewing the security footage, Boyer noticed Kendra handling two phones, one personal, one allegedly for work. This detail became crucial. Forensics later showed both devices had accessed the same Wi-Fi network at the times the threatening messages were sent.
That's a huge red flag. Did they confront Kendra about the two phones right away, or did they gather more evidence first? What was her explanation?
Investigators approached Kendra subtly at first, asking about her phones under the guise of routine questioning. She claimed she needed both for her job as a substitute teacher and for keeping in touch with Lauryn. However, a forensic analysis of the devices showed that the work phone had been used to create multiple fake accounts on various messaging apps, all tied back to the anonymous texts. By early December, the FBI had enough to obtain a search warrant for Kendra's devices.
How did they finally link Kendra to the actual messages? Was it just the device data, or was there something more concrete, like a digital fingerprint or unique behavior in the texts?
It was a combination of digital forensics and linguistic analysis. The FBI's cyber unit uncovered that the messages contained unique spelling errors and phrases Kendra used, such as "you are" instead of "you are." A digital forensics expert testified that metadata from the threatening messages matched timestamps when Kendra was home alone. Investigators also found that certain phrases in the texts matched language Kendra used in PTA group chats and even in a letter she wrote to the school board.
That's incredibly detailed. Did Lauryn or Owen have any suspicions about Kendra before this? Or did this revelation come completely out of nowhere for them?
Lauryn was blindsided. She reported in interviews that she never suspected her mother, describing Kendra as overprotective but loving. Owen's mother, Jill, however, told police she found Kendra's intense interest in the kids' relationships odd. Kendra would ask probing questions and seemed overly involved.
How did the school and the broader community react to these revelations? Was there any backlash against Lauryn or her family after Kendra was implicated?
The small town of Beale, Michigan was rocked. Many felt betrayed, not just by Kendra's actions, but by how long the bullying had gone undetected. The Wilsons, who hosted the infamous Halloween party, staged a dramatic protest. Tommy Wilson dressed a scarecrow in a prison jumpsuit and a mask of Kendra's mugshot, holding 2 cell phones. Some parents expressed guilt for not believing Lauryn sooner, while others questioned how such a calculated scheme could go unnoticed for so long.
That's such a public display. Did Kendra ever explain why she did it? Was there any insight into her psychological state or motivations?
In her police interviews, Kendra claimed she was trying to protect Lauryn from harm, referencing trauma she'd experienced as a teenager. However, psychiatric evaluations suggested deeper psychological issues, possibly rooted in unresolved trauma and a need for control. She admitted to feeling overwhelmed by single parenthood and expressed regret, but her explanations remained vague. Experts interviewed for the case noted behaviors consistent with Munchausen by proxy, seeking validation by creating or prolonging distress in someone close.
That's fascinating and deeply unsettling. What about the forensic evidence? Were there any other physical clues like fingerprints or device logs that helped build the case?
Absolutely. Forensic examiners recovered deleted messaging apps from both of Kendra's phones. They found drafts of unsent messages, evidence of SIM card swaps, and VPN logs showing attempts to mask the device's locations. Investigators also traced several fake email accounts used to register messaging apps, all created within minutes of each other from the same IP address. Each new account correlated with a spike in threatening messages.
Did the authorities find any evidence that Kendra tried to frame anyone else? Or was she solely focused on tormenting Lauryn and Owen?
Kendra's actions inadvertently cast suspicion on Lauryn's friends. She would sometimes message other teens, urging them to comfort Lauryn and spreading rumors about possible suspects. At one point, she even suggested to school officials that a group of students might be conspiring against her daughter. This manipulation not only deepened Lauryn's isolation, but fractured friendships across the school as trust eroded amid the ongoing harassment. Kendra's statements have remained sparse and guarded. In her only interview after sentencing, she reiterated her prior claims that she acted out of a misguided instinct to protect Lauryn, referencing her own adolescent trauma. She told the court, "I never wanted to harm Lauryn, but I lost myself in the process." However, experts who reviewed her psychological evaluation noted signs of unresolved trauma, obsessive tendencies, and possible personality disorder traits.
Have any psychological experts weighed in on what might have driven Kendra to such extremes, especially targeting her own daughter over such a prolonged period?
Yes, Dr. Melissa Randall, a forensic psychologist who reviewed the case, found that Kendra's intense need for control over Lauryn's social life and relationships played a major role. Dr. Randall suggested Kendra may have been projecting her own childhood fears onto Lauryn, leading to an escalating pattern of manipulation and emotional abuse. She also noted that the use of such intimate language in the texts, like the nickname Lo, points to a perpetrator deeply enmeshed in Lauryn's life.
What's the current state of the investigation? Are there any ongoing efforts to uncover additional details or potential accomplices? Or has the case been officially closed by authorities?
Officially, the Isabella County Sheriff's Department closed the case after Kendra's conviction. However, as of August 2025, cybercrime specialists continue to monitor similar anonymous harassment complaints in the region, wary of copycat incidents. The FBI's liaison, Bradley Peter, said, "We keep an open file on all digital harassment cases, especially those with familial connections. No evidence has emerged to suggest Kendra had any accomplices."
That's interesting. Have Lauryn or Owen spoken out publicly about the ongoing trauma or how they're coping in the aftermath, especially with the documentary reigniting public interest?
Lauryn, now 18, participated in a victim impact panel last May, describing the persistent anxiety and trust issues she still battles. She told the audience, "Every unknown number still makes my heart race." Owen, meanwhile, has started college and shared that he's working with a therapist to process what he called a year-long siege on my sanity. Both have distanced themselves from social media.
Did the school or local authorities implement any new protocols or programs in response to what happened, maybe to prevent similar incidents in the future?
Absolutely. Beale City High School launched a comprehensive digital safety curriculum in the fall of 2023, including anonymous reporting tools and monthly workshops with law enforcement and mental health professionals. Principal Dan Boyer said, "We realized our old systems were inadequate. Now we teach students and parents how to spot red flags and respond appropriately." The school also increased counselor availability for students struggling with digital harassment.
Has there been any backlash or criticism directed at the school or law enforcement for how the investigation was initially handled, especially since so many people suspected Kendra early on?
Yes, both the school and local police faced criticism for overlooking early warning signs. Community member Diane Fussman told Principal Boyer she suspected Kendra, but Boyer found it implausible at first, saying, "My gut told me this just isn't one of our kids." After the truth came out, parents questioned why more wasn't done when the messages first escalated, and why Kendra's access to school property wasn't more tightly controlled.
What about the evidence itself? Has there been any debate among experts about the forensic process used to trace the messages back to Kendra, or was the digital trail considered airtight?
Yes, the forensic work was considered exceptionally thorough. FBI liaison Bradley Peter traced the texts to an app that masked numbers, then subpoenaed the Ryzen, linking activity to Kendra's devices. Digital forensics confirmed usage patterns matched Kendra's calendar and home Wi-Fi. No credible expert has disputed the chain of evidence, though some digital privacy advocates worry about the broader surveillance implications.
Were there any other suspects considered during the investigation, or was the focus on Lauryn's peers the main misdirection before they closed in on Kendra?
Initially, investigators suspected Lauryn's classmates, and even Owen himself, given the message's content and timing. Several friends were questioned and had devices temporarily seized. Only after the FBI's technical analysis pointed to an adult's patterns and the discovery of Kendra's Q phones during the school shoe sting did suspicion pivot to her. Prior to that, the school community was deeply divided, with friendships fractured by suspicion.
I remember the documentary hinting that some people in town had doubts about Kendra from the start. Has that affected her standing in the community, even after her conviction?
Kendra's reputation is irreparably damaged. At last year's Halloween party, neighbors displayed a scarecrow in a prison jumpsuit with Kendra's mugshot and phones in its hands, a pointed public shaming. Some community members organized watch parties for the documentary, both as catharsis and a cautionary tale. Others, though, worry about the impact on Lauryn and Sean, urging compassion for the family.
Have Lauryn and Owen stayed in Beale City, or did they consider relocating to escape the scrutiny and gossip?
Lauryn and Sean have stayed in Beale City, but they keep a low profile. Lauryn, now 18, transferred to a nearby college and now commutes. According to friends, Sean considered moving, but ultimately decided to stay, saying, "This is our home. We won't let this destroy what's left of our family." The community's response remains divided, some supportive, others keeping their distance.
Are there any unresolved questions that investigators or the community still grapple with? Or is the consensus that all the facts have come to light?
While the core facts are clear, unresolved questions linger, especially about Kendra's deeper motivations. Some community members still wonder if there were earlier warning signs missed, like her obsessiveness with Lauren's social life or her sudden job loss. Others question if Kendra's mental health issues were ignored too long, or if she's told the full truth about what drove her actions. Theories persist, but hard evidence is limited.
What have any experts suggested possible ways this kind of familial catfishing could be prevented in the future, either through tech safeguards or mental health interventions?
Experts like Dr. Randall recommend early intervention for parents struggling with obsessive tendencies, as well as regular digital literacy training for both teens and adults. Monitoring software can flag suspicious patterns, but privacy concerns complicate implementation. Most agree that open family communication and mental health support are the strongest preventive tools. The school now offers parent workshops on digital boundaries.
Has there been any new evidence or revelations come to light after the documentary aired? Or has everything remained pretty much as it was at the time of sentencing?
Since the documentary's release, no major new evidence has surfaced, but several classmates have come forward with stories about Kendra's earlier controlling behavior. One former friend shared that Kendra used to monitor Lauren's text messages as early as middle school, hinting that her need for control may have deep roots. Still, law enforcement has not reopened the case.
What impact has the documentary itself had on the people involved? Has the renewed attention brought closure, or has it stirred up new trauma or controversy?
The documentary has been a double-edged sword. For Lauren, it's brought support from others who experienced cyberbullying, but also revived painful memories. Owen's family reported a spike in unwanted media attention, prompting them to request privacy. Some townspeople see the documentary as exploiting their pain, while others believe it's a necessary warning about the risks of unchecked online abuse.
Has there been any ongoing lawsuits or civil actions related to the case, maybe from Lauren or Owen's family against Kendra or the school district?
As of September 2025, there are no civil suits filed by Lauren or Owen's families. However, sources say both families consulted attorneys about possible claims related to emotional distress and inadequate school intervention. For now, they've opted not to pursue legal action, focusing instead on healing and moving forward.
Have there been any legislative or policy changes in Michigan as a result of this case, especially regarding cyberbullying or digital harassment laws?
The case catalyzed a push to toughen Michigan's cyberbullying statutes. In March 2024, lawmakers passed amendments increasing penalties for adults who harass minors online and requiring schools to report digital harassment to law enforcement within 48 hours. The new laws also mandate annual cyber safety training for educators statewide.
What's the broader impact of this case on similar investigations or national conversations about digital abuse within families?
Nationally, the Beale City case has become a reference point for law enforcement and advocacy groups. The FBI updated its best practices for handling digital harassment cases with a familial component, emphasizing early family interviews and cross-checking device usage. Nonprofits now use the case in trainings to illustrate the complex dynamics of intrafamilial abuse and digital manipulation.
What's the broader impact of this case on similar investigations or national conversations about digital abuse within families?
Nationally, the Beale City case has become a reference point for law enforcement and advocacy groups. The FBI updated its best practices for handling digital harassment cases with a familial component, emphasizing early family interviews and cross-checking device usage. Nonprofits now use the case in trainings to illustrate the complex dynamics of intrafamilial abuse and digital manipulation.
What's the current state of the investigation? Are there any unresolved questions that investigators or the community still grapple with? Or is the consensus that all the facts have come to light?
While the core facts are clear, unresolved questions linger, especially about Kendra's deeper motivations. Some community members still wonder if there were earlier warning signs missed, like her obsessiveness with Lauren's social life or her sudden job loss. Others question if Kendra's mental health issues were ignored too long, or if she's told the full truth about what drove her actions. Theories persist, but hard evidence is limited.
What have any experts suggested possible ways this kind of familial catfishing could be prevented in the future, either through tech safeguards or mental health interventions?
Experts like Dr. Randall recommend early intervention for parents struggling with obsessive tendencies, as well as regular digital literacy training for both teens and adults. Monitoring software can flag suspicious patterns, but privacy concerns complicate implementation. Most agree that open family communication and mental health support are the strongest preventive tools. The school now offers